Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pole Position Podcast, a new take on Formula One from a couple sport management master's students here in Tampa, Florida. My name is Mac Turchan. I'm from Canada originally, and alongside I've got Nadir Khan from Pakistan, and we're a couple F1 enthusiasts and also sport management MBA students here at the University of South Florida. We're excited to bring you a two-part podcast series digging into everything relevant and current in the Formula One scene right now. And without further ado, we're going to just jump right into, basically giving a bit of an overall viewpoint on where do things look like on the track this season before in episode 2, getting into some of the off-track controversies, major news lines and such. But, to give kind of a summary before we get there, let's talk to Nadir here and see how we're looking on track. So Nadir, I think when it comes to any Formula One season, the first thing that all fans are looking for are car launches. That's kind of the official beginning of season. And, there were a couple car launches that were, very significant based off last year's results. Let's start with, maybe the back of the grid. We looked at Haas. They had an absolutely horrific 2021 season, but, everybody knew at that time they were just kind of in a survival mode and trying to get to 2022. And, that car launch was specifically, very, noteworthy because, things looked a lot different and a lot more promising. So can you dive into that a little bit deeper?
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. I think this year's car launches have been more interesting just because of the fact that there's been new rules. It's a new car, it's a new design, and everybody wanted to see how the different teams have interpreted the new rules. And I think if there were two teams who've delivered on their promise of sacrificing their last whole season and concentrating on the new car, it's been Haas and Ferrari. And Haas released as it got released, I think immediately, the experts were it made an impression straight away. It's a very interesting, it's a very brave design, very interesting design for the side pods as well. So I think for the first impression, Haas was really up there. People were expecting a lot from them, and considering that Ferrari was doing the same, investing in the new 2022 season. They have their own. Haas has the Ferrari power unit, so people were expecting improvements there as well. So yeah, I think as we talk, we come ahead to the races and the testing. I think we see what we see the results of what the experts were predicting.
Yeah, for sure. So Haas, obviously a struggle in 2021, but exciting progress for 2022 based on the car launch. Ferrari, similar, struggles, but also some progress seen in 2021. Really looking to get back to the front of the grid as they have been historically. We can shift gears though and look at the two teams that were fighting through all the way till the very last lap of the very last race in 2021. What are your thoughts on Red Bull and Mercedes for their respective car launches coming into 2022?
I think as far as the car launches is concerned, I think Red Bull looked pretty solid. It kept the same livery. People were pretty impressed by there seemed to be a method behind their design. Same for Mercedes, surprisingly. It had an oversized front wing and an oversized rear wing. I think nobody predicted, what that oversized rear wing would actually result in, in terms of the extra downforce that Mercedes eventually has problems dealing with. I think as far as the launches are concerned, they were pretty solid launches. In terms of livery for Mercedes, they went back to those arrows, which is not something that like super exciting. But Mercedes was confident, they want to stick to their stronghold, and it seemed like a pretty solid design.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's something that's worked for them in the past, and there's no doubt they've seen a lot of success. So maybe not pushing the boundaries on that too much, but going with what's brought them.
Yeah, and I think the confidence during the launch was seen by that, especially by that press conference by Hamilton when he was asked, if this doesn't turn out to be as good a car it has been for the last 7 seasons. And he said, like, my team doesn't make mistakes. And I mean, you could see that confidence coming in. It's been a story to follow after that.
Yeah, and there was probably the next stage would be preseason testing, and like you said, with the new car design, completely new specs here for 2022. Probably can't think of a preseason testing that was maybe more anticipated, both with the new cars for 2022 and how last year finished in such a dramatic, entertaining way for drivers and fans alike. So the first kind of big spot for us to really see how these cars were performing out on track would have been in Barcelona for preseason testing. Yeah. So what were the big storylines coming out of that, Nadir?
I think Barcelona was kind of like it didn't give away much. The teams they don't come up with all their guns blazing in the first testing usually. But the first day, Lando Norris was the fastest. Ferrari was up there on the first day. But Mercedes was doing really well as well. It was just like the car still had obviously the aero grids on them, and you can't really predict what the car really is. I think it was just a testing, every team doing their own programs, and Red Bull mostly focusing on getting in the labs, getting the data. But I think whoever tried to make any predictions from Barcelona didn't get any much accurate information. McLaren looked pretty solid actually during the whole testing, and Red Bull kept it pretty low key.
Yeah, so more of an experimental testing ground there in Barcelona, and not too much to take away for fans in terms of trying to figure out, who's going to perform best. Maybe some early signs, but also hard to predict based on Barcelona. But we get to Bahrain, 2 weeks before first race of the season for further testing, and things started to take shape there.
Yeah, I mean, before like one more point that I want to focus on is the fact that Mercedes comes up with a square sidepod design for the first day in Barcelona, and then changes the sidepod design altogether to something like something really unconventional for the second day, which kind of showed that they were not confident about their initial design, and they were still in the zone of testing. And with all the new limitations in terms of budget spending and also the wind tunnel testing time, I think that was an indication of what was to proceed. And moving ahead to Bahrain, 2 weeks later, I think people were kind of expecting a lot of improvements from Mercedes as well, and it kind of like it felt like it kind of showed there were more fundamental issues to the car as far as Mercedes is concerned. Ferrari was still pretty solid, I think. It just solidified its strength there. during the testing. And as far as the Red Bull is concerned, I think the first 2 days they were pretty low key. They kept it low key, but they put in a lot of laps in. Yeah.
Yeah. So more to be seen at Bahrain, and that kind of sets the stage for the first race of the season a week later in Bahrain, and certainly some results that I think shocked everybody. Do you want to kind of dive in a little bit and tell us about what we saw in Bahrain and how you think that can kind of set some expectations of what we can see through the rest of the season, Nadir?
Yeah, I think Bahrain kind of like even the qualification or the race itself. I think it showed that this is going to be a two-way season, at least for the first part of the season. It's going to be it's going to be Ferrari versus Red Bull. Red Bull showed some endurance problems to their car, reliability issues to their car, with both of them having to exit the not being able to complete the race. But it was a really interesting fight between Leclerc and Verstappen. So that was really interesting, and people wanted some answers towards the new designs, and if it's going to be more interesting in terms of the ability of the car to follow the front car. I think we don't have all the answers right now. If the new design is actually delivering what the FIA had promised and the claims that they're made, but I think the first race gave us a very interesting battle that we haven't seen in the previous seasons that much. But it was still a concern for Red Bull in terms of reliability, because both of them, their cars are now having some mechanical issues. But some really interesting things that happened during Bahrain is, I think you have to mention Magnussen. What happened with Haas, with Q5, which is I'm personally really happy for the team itself. All that it has gone through, being in the bottom of the grid for so many seasons. So I think now the challenge is for them to keep this momentum, keep this performance, and as other teams keep improving their car. I think Haas has still a lot of work to do, but that was the big story coming out of Bahrain.
Yeah, certainly some major steps up for the Haas team, consistently at the back of the grid in 2021. But Magnussen, like you said, finishing P5, that's a massive result for him on his comeback, and then Schumacher also finishing just outside the top 10. So a couple good results for the squad there. Yeah. Interesting to see as well the varying paths that Ferrari and McLaren have taken based off last year and the past few years, really battling at the upper midfield for that third place in the constructors behind Mercedes and Red Bull. Yeah. Give me your thoughts on McLaren, because obviously the big story is the Ferrari 1-2, getting back to the place where their ridiculous fan base always wants to be, and where that team has been historically. But McLaren, another very historical team, really struggling off the bat here in this season.
Yeah, I think when the car was launched, it didn't seem like there was a lot wrong with the car itself. And then seeing the results of all the Mercedes powered cars, now the question is it the power unit, or is it the design of the car? Because McLaren is struggling with any downforce, and it's struggling with outright power on the straights. So I think it's really interesting that Ricciardo was 14, and Lando Norris was so far behind the grid as well. It's going to be an uphill battle for McLaren. It's the Mercedes power unit seems to team's not been delivering in terms of the outright power, but there is still a lot of work in terms of aerodynamics of the car, the downforce that they're generating. As I mean, we all saw how high quality of a driver Norris is. I think it's and even Ricardo is such a gifted driver. I think it's definitely the car this time around, and there's a lot that needs to be done on the car.
Yeah, certainly both those guys are well proven with the results on the grid. So, really a surprising result there for McLaren.
Yeah.
In a stark contrast to Ferrari moving to 1-2 with a pretty dominant result all weekend. So a lot of interesting storylines to tee up for the upcoming season. Nadir, thanks for breaking down the on track season beginnings here. Definitely shaping up to be another very entertaining season for the fans, coming off what might have been an absolutely historic 2021. More great things to come in 2022. So that'll do it for this episode of the podcast, but make sure to tune around for the next episode, which I think, Nadir, is the one thing that really sets Formula One apart for the drama, is everything going on off the track as well as on the track. So, no shortage of headlines to start the early season. Nadir, Nikita Mazepin being kicked out of Formula One, along with, his father, and that sponsorship for the Haas from Eurocali. So missing a major sponsor already in this season for a team that's had its share of financial struggles, to say the least. Saudi Arabia, coming back, to race in Saudi for the second time in 4 months. I think with everything going on in the world, there's a lot of eyes on that situation. Drive to Survive releasing its 4th season. Really exciting. You can't say enough about what that's done for the sport. And then, possible talks about further expansion of the series overall, including a confirmed Las Vegas race for 2023. So lots to talk about in episode 2, but that'll do it for us here on episode 1. Thanks so much for listening.